Yes.
All right, so it is 10 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time Zone, New York, and we have a webinar with another company, UniCheck. And this company is very special for several reasons. First of all, they did participate in Xculture last semester. And what's remarkable about that is that last semester they were called Unplugged. And so ever since, so we had a break 3 months during the summer, the company changed its name. And in partially because some of the Xculture students did know that the old name didn't sound perhaps as nice as the new name. And so the new name of the company is UniCheck. So we do have the old webinars recorded. So just to clear up the confusion related to the name, that's the explanation why the company is now called UniCheck. Second, the reason I like this particular company very much is because the product of the company is something that we all use all the time. By we, I mean both the professors who participate in Xculture, but also the students. The company specializes in essentially plagiarism detection, and they use slightly different terminology. They call it similarity detection, but for us, basically, they help us detect plagiarism and thereby combat the problem. And so unlike the other companies that participate in Xculture, where the products may or may not be relevant to our industry, UniCheck works exactly in the academic world, and all of us can not only help them solve the problems, but potentially could be the customers. And so hopefully that will help us provide better solutions. And third, probably, well, not most important, but equally important to me, the company is headquartered in Ukraine, the country where I was born and raised. And even though it's been more than half a life since I left Ukraine, but I certainly still feel the connection and the very warm feelings to the country. And so it's very nice to have a company from my country of origin participate in Xculture. So we have two company representatives here, Ivan Klymenko, who is, well, I'll let them announce their titles, but they basically run the company. So, and Serhii, the last name escapes me, sorry, that's embarrassing.
Tkachenko.
Right. So I know Serhii is in charge of the basically sales operations of the company, whereas Ivan is more on the technical front. And as always, we will follow the same protocol. We will let our guests talk a little bit about the company, present the company, talk a little bit about the history, about the products, perhaps maybe devote a little extra attention to the changes that the company has undergone, particularly with respect to the product. So the company is innovating very rapid, or I guess I wanted to say innovating like crazy, which is not a politically correct term. The company invests a lot in research and development and is evolving rapidly on the technical front. So they're constantly changing their product or evolving their product. They are changing how the product is offered. They are experimenting with the artificial intelligence, which may become a game changer. And so there is a lot to tell about that. And then we do already have a number of questions that students have sent via email. If you have any additional questions during the presentation, again, you can either send them to admin@xculture.org, or feel free to simply click on the presenter link and join us here in this webinar room and engage in a discussion with the presenters directly. So you can be here with us and simply talk. So I think without any further ado, let's get to the presentation, and then we'll move on to the questions in about 10, 15, 20 minutes. Please.
Thank you for this introduction, Vasil. Equally pleased to talk to the person who has origin from the country Ukraine, where I stay. We have our main office located in Kiev, Ukraine. It's the capital. And we have also other office in the United States and California, basically covering our United States American operations and basically North American operations. So we are a worldwide company. We operate on all continents and basically in all countries, except in those regions where there are some legal, I would say, impediments for us to have, for example, a mandatory legal company. It could be some Asian countries, some Middle Eastern countries. Apart from that, We don't have any obstacles, and we do operate globally. The company was established in 2013. Its name indeed was Unplag. We found out pretty soon, in about a year or so, that Unplag is very hard to pronounce. For foreigners, for us, they are foreigners, but for native speakers, and even on forum, people and teachers ask, but how do you pronounce this name? And there were different versions, like Unplag, Unplug, Unplage. So we thought it's not a good idea to have a name which is hard to spell and probably hard to remember because of that. So we've decided to rebrand recently, but the major reason for that was different, which I'll come in soon after I carry on my chronological story about the company. After the company was established in 2014, we started to offer UniCheck, formerly Unplag, for individual users. So we have two major products. One is for educational institutions, for both K-12 and higher education. It covers both individual campuses, schools, colleges, universities, as well as networks. So school districts can use our software, as well as college networks and university consortiums. Another part of our service is individual product. So basically, every student who has the need to do plagiarism check before submitting their final work can subscribe for services and can have that access basically on demand. So before you need to submit the paper and you want to make sure that everything is cited correctly and that you omit and avoid unintentional plagiarism, you can use the services for that at unicheck.com. As of now, company comprises of more than 50 people, different specialties. Of course, because we're a fully in-house development company, we have all range of specialists. We have a full-scale development team, which covers different stack of technologies, covers databases, programming languages, and markup languages, everything that is needed basically to develop websites, products, and especially server, back-end solutions, which primarily are coded in Java or Java. So in 2015, we have entered the educational market, meaning we have started offering formerly Unplag to K-12 and higher education. And by that time, we had a standalone product, but soon we realized that the world is moving towards LMS systems. And this was something new to us as a company. Probably we should have done better work researching the market where the services are consumed at first, but we have catched up pretty quickly. For example, when I started in Kyiv Polytechnic Institute back in 2004, we didn't have any learning management system. We used to have lectures and took notes in paper textbooks, and much of this happens still right now in the world, anywhere, even in the US. Primarily in K-12, there's still around, for example, approximately half of the schools which don't use any kind of LMS system, but everything is moving toward centralization, integration, and I would say online education in the way that learning is organized online. Our first integration was with Moodle LMS system, and as of now, we're integrated in about 10 top LMS systems, which are primarily used in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe, and all over the world, primarily in the Western world. Okay, so in 2000, after some time has passed and we have spent some experience, we have had some experience on the educational market, and we have developed some integrations. We have realized that effectively we are operating as just another plagiarism checker, and there is nothing distinct about us as yet. This was still 2015, 2016. So that's when an understanding started to hit us that if we really want to create a disruption, because at that time our product was technologically advanced, but it still lacked any brand awareness, major brand awareness. It did lack, I would say, established marketing strategy, company mission, etc. There was a nagging feeling that we're missing out a lot because we're not differentiating ourselves. We don't offering something not just unique but also valuable. And we're a private company basically, and our investors and I would say inspirers and stakeholders, they believe in companies that circle around social changes. So one of the reasons the company was created and And to be honest, it's one of the complicated spheres to do business, because we could, for example, work only on the individual segment or work in the business niche, and the cycle of deals is much shorter there. So to give you a clue, an institution could think about changing to a new solution for about 6 months. It can span even a year sometimes. Sometimes decisions are made quickly in about a month or 3 months, but at least the institution needs to pilot the technology, weigh all risks, and effectively evaluate it against what they have right now. If everything comes into place and they have all approvals, the board approval, if it's a school district, then it has to go through the school district administration approval, only then your product is purchased. And before that, you have to comply with numerous requirements. For example, integration into LMS systems is done via specific standards. There are, for example, content standards such as SCORM, if you have heard it like that. But there's also LTI standard, which allows to embed educational content right inside the LMS. So, for example, when you consume educational materials from the teachers, you may not notice that this material is effectively streamed from remote servers, from remote companies, which offer this content. All this is embedded using the LTI. In our solution for business is effectively working through the LTI. So once we've done the integration, then we started to learn that we needed so many features to basically fulfill the needs of different schools and higher ed. And these range from simple functional features, like having an ability to do an action in the report, in the plagiarism report, like omit a source or identify citation, and down to accessibility. Accessibility is a range of requirements that make software usable for all range of students, even those who have some physical limitations. And that is very important to us. We want to really deliver a solution that integrates seamlessly with learning management system that is used by educational institutions. And that means that we have to also comply with all these regulations. And accessibility has recently become a government regulation. There's a Section 508 law that explains that. So moving on, this year we have had a major, I would say, so as of 2016, we have had around, I would say, around 100 enterprise customers, but we still were not satisfied at the rate of growth, and we were not primarily satisfied that we're not making a change. And we spent a lot thinking about how and what we can make different, and so that it's not just unique, but it's also socially valuable. And we've come up with the idea that really none of the plagiarism solutions are out there to make a social change. They really make a solution, they sell it, some sell it effectively, becoming almost a dominant player, like having more than 50% of the market share. Some are have great market share in their specific countries or territories. Like, for example, there is a solution called Urkund. They are quite popular in Europe, and that's because every institution at some point in time, if asked about automation of plagiarism checks, they might even have some of their own tools. When I studied in Kyiv Polytechnic Institute in Kyiv back in 2004, my computer class, actually programming class, was C++ programming. The teacher had devised his own plagiarism tool because even students in the same class used to copy each other's work. So I'm not talking about the moral here, but the fact is the practice was there and the prevention also was needed there. So different regions might have their own regional players in plagiarism detection, and we're talking about primarily enterprise version of the system. If we're talking about individual services, of course, there are numerous online plagiarism services, and some of them are free, some of them are paid, but there are around 20 maybe plagiarism checkers online, if not more. And I'll touch a little bit more on that, why there are so many, and what would be the major distinction between the free tool and the paid tool. So what we've come up is a mission that we'd like to fulfill within the next 3 to 5 years, and that is to effectively solve the challenge of plagiarism, or rather provide affordable and efficient educational tools to all educational institutions worldwide, no matter country, no matter type of educational institutions, and even no matter budget. That is crucial because the latest trend in education, and specifically with our competitors, is that everything becomes costs more with every year, with every 2 years. So the cost of the services are increase, and effectively this could even translate in the increase of the educational costs if we're talking about private education, for example, when students pay for their college or university tuition. And some institutions cannot keep up with the rate of the costs. And affordability of such tools, given that they are efficient and doing their job well, is a major thing. So that has been embedded into our mission and strategy, which is once again to unite all educational institutions and provide them a universal plagiarism checker solution. When I say unite, I mean is that we're not operating simply as a plagiarism vendor as such. We actually want to do more and even provide some, I would say, not just content, but I would say stir the worldwide educational community in the direction of joining together to try to tackle this phenomena of plagiarism. Our strategy is following. For a select number of countries, including the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and other English-speaking countries, we offer our solution for free. I mean, corporate solution, that's right. So basically any school, college, institution, even consortium, even if it's a second largest school district in the United States comprising of million students, can install the software and use it for free. So where's the catch? There is no catch, but there is an explanation for this policy. So we'd like to remove any barrier at all for adoption of the plagiarism prevention system, because so far current existing vendors, they place different barriers, and primarily those are cost prohibitive barriers. And there could be other barriers, but cost is one of them. So that's what we do with this step. But we don't just give our software and that's it. We basically offer added services on top of it, because obviously having something for free is great, but with little money in your budget, you can gain essential advantages and services. So we've got effectively 3 packages in our enterprise offering right now. We offer Essentials package, which is free in select countries, but it has a few limitations on features. The key thing to remember is the plagiarism check itself is free. So the institutions can actually automate similarity checks. They can get reports. Student can see reports if teachers allow them to do so, and if it's according to the plagiarism policy of the institution. So effectively, the problem of plagiarism check is solved for them. The reason for them to upgrade to higher packages, basically paid packages, is to get support and accounting, and basically some of the advanced features like PDF report generation, like student pre-check, when students can actually verify their submission for similarity before turning it to the teacher. And we've got 2 packages above the Essentials. One is Support Plus, which focuses on SLA-based support, dedicated account manager. It has features such as support of advanced formats like Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel. We support some of the LTI advanced features in our application in that package, and we've got an upgrade to Enterprise, which is a fully featured version of the cloud software. Then it has API module, so that you can customize your experience. You can integrate it into your virtual learning environment, no matter what that environment is. It's actually a power suite for serious institutions who really want to squeeze the last every drop of this solution. So what we have achieved by introducing this strategy, or actually aim to achieve, is a widespread adoption of UniCheck solution globally, including in select these 8 countries. Regarding the other countries where the free package is not available, they can actually obtain Support Plus package, and they can start with Support Plus package, and the price is negotiable. So if you have studied the market in terms of enterprise solutions, you may have encountered such names as Turnitin, Verisign, some recently created company, or Kunt, Plugscan. And I'd like to stop here a little bit to explain what's different with us and them. So these are more older companies, except for VeriSite. VeriSite has been created just recently, I would say, maybe 2 years ago or something. And those companies are basically, they operate in a, I don't know whether it's because of the educational sphere, which is slower than business sphere itself, but those companies are not innovators, and they haven't actually introduced any major innovation in the last 10 years, not talking about the social causes. Of course, every company should speak for themselves, but from our research, we didn't notice any heavy investment in the social cause in those companies. And that's the first major difference between them and us. And second, we have created our search engine from scratch and doing the new development. Of course, we used all the new stack of technologies, which translates in reliability, stability. The core engine is basically fresh in terms of coding practices and optimizations. And effectively, the system is modular. It can be improved in part or in full. We can connect to different search engines to power up our search results. So effectively, the second distinction is that we're a new system, new cloud system, and those are old legacy systems, unless those vendors decide to basically completely revamp their solutions with new technology. The third major distinction is price. Effectively, as I said, the pricing has been raising every year, every 2 years or so, by a magnitude of 30 to 60%, and that becomes that actually reaches the stage where the solution becomes cost prohibitive for some schools and colleges, and they really it's not they just really want to look for alternative, but they're actually forced to look for alternative. And that's good for us as a new company who's trying to acquire as many customers as possible in our early phase. But at the same time, we understand that there is a social aspect of it. So this solution cannot be priced so high that we actually price out our customers and they cannot afford it. So UniCheck always stays within institutions' budget. That's a key thing to remember. So we have a flexible pricing for the enterprise package, and we have a fixed pricing for support plus package, which is 25 cents per student. And this is very accessible price. So to understand what it means, 25 cents per student, it means that a school of 1,000 students can install UniCheck and only pay us $250 for all services that they receive, for automation of similarity checks, and effectively get the integrated experience for very little money. Okay. We operate on, as I said, globally. Our focus, yep. Trust.
No. Yeah, I just wanted to give you time to finish. We have a lot of questions that already came by email. Some of them are related to the things that you already discussed. They just want more clarification, and some are brand new questions. But please take your time. Let's see what else. Finish the presentation, and then we'll get back to that.
Let's simply try to round this up in a few minutes so that we can have enough time to go through the questions.
Yep.
So to make, I guess we'd rather make a long story short. So UniCheck is the first company in plagiarism area with real social responsibility that has a mission that clearly states that we want to disseminate our tool in an affordable way. At the same time, this tool is efficient. We make very accurate internet searches because the technology is new. We have had very heavy focus on quality at first. But then we understand that the marketing is the second part. But before we understood that we have to also invest a lot in marketing to make brand awareness, we really did improve on quality a lot. And effectively, our dream is to close the circle of this need for plagiarism and make UniCheck as universal as some of current search engines are or other companies are, and effectively provide the answer to the education sphere challenge, which is plagiarism phenomena, both online plagiarism, offline plagiarism, and contract plagiarism. All right, Vasil, so we can go through the questions.
Right.
And I may start probably from top to bottom. We may dismiss.
I actually have a few clarifying questions that just came via email, if you would like to devote a little minute to that. Two students ask what LMS is, Learning Management Systems.
Okay.
So in some countries, the term is used widely. In others, people don't know what it is. Can you clarify what that is?
Yes. So LMS systems, they actually started to appear when, with the boom of the internet companies and with the boom of the technology companies, everything started to move online. So first that moved online was business. Of course, the movement of documents has become electronic. That was probably the first thing that became electronic. And for education, the first thing to become electronic is dissemination of learning materials. And that's where the learning management systems came from. So basically what they did, they took offline class to online class, and it could be online teaching, but it could be simply assignments, quizzes, forums, and other tools that help facilitate communication from the teacher to the student, but also disseminate information for thousands of students. That's what technology allows.
So you're basically talking about Blackboard, about Canvas.
Yes, Blackboard was first. Canvas came up later. So Blackboard, yeah, Blackboard is one of the oldest LMS systems in the United States, and they have.
That's the platform where professors post all the course materials and students log in to see their grades and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, they post course materials. Students submit their homework and their replies, if it's a quiz or a forum, etc. And also, it's an announcement platform. It's a online collaboration platform, and more often it becomes simply an environment where a lot of teaching happens.
Right.
And a lot of sharing and learning happens in communication.
Yeah. Another quick question about the terminology. So sometimes people say plagiarism detection. You used the term plagiarism checker. Some people specifically talk about similarity detection. Are those different things, or they mean the same process essentially?
Yeah, so there is a professional term for this type of software. It's plagiarism detection software, and I guess it has been simply a historical term that an industry came up with once there was a solution that was widely adopted, and then they had to refer to it with some name. Effectively, plagiarism checker is any tool that verifies text similarities and primarily text content. If we're talking about comparison of images, of video materials, there are technologies that do track potential plagiarism, copyright violations, but this is a completely different technology and completely different sphere. So probably education market and sphere does not employ such technologies as yet.
Right. Now, there is well, I guess some of the questions came in earlier. I was trying to group them by the topic, and so maybe let's talk a little bit more about the company itself, and then we'll get more into the specific topics. So one, how big are you? How many employees do you have? And there is a related question that I like very much. The student here is asking, what type of employees do you have? So he assumes that it's probably coders, managers, maybe sales personnel, and then what is the percentage in each category or numbers in each category?
So we are a medium company of a size of more than 50 people right now. Primarily, all the people are stationed in Kiev, but as I mentioned, we have an office in ES as well. Lots of employees, maybe I would say slightly less than half are actually technical specialists, because as I mentioned, we are a research and development company, and we produce technologies, although I didn't expand on what those are. So to briefly mention it, we work on authorship identification technology. We work on grammar engine, which is based on neural networks and would identify complex syntax errors. And we work to apply basically these new developments in computing sphere as AI and machine learning in different business niches as well. For example, we have a technology that consumes a legal document, which is only text, but outputs a picture displaying the risks that every counterparty can take depending on the road that they choose. So basically, it's a visualizing legal documents, which has probably never been used or seen before. It's just to give you a clue. So a lot of people are programmers. We have a CDO who's in charge of our technology department. We have lead developers and regular developers. We have a quality assurance department, primarily tailored to the product. Of course, we have all standard departments like legal department, business development, marketing. We have further subdivisions for link builders, inbound marketing specialists, etc.
Mm-hmm. And then can you talk one more time more about your products? So the main product is what we call plagiarism detection, but then you also offer services with basically grammar and writing style checking.
Yeah.
And
so
then also you experiment with the artificial intelligence that may potentially recognize the authorship of the document.
Yeah, so let's stop a little bit here. and talk about these technologies, we do not yet offer the services because some of the technologies are still in development. The technology that can be already tried in beta is Emma. EmmaIdentity.com is the website. What it does, it employs various techniques of machine learning and AI, and it builds a profile of the author. What it needs as an input is author's original work, and it needs up to 5,000 words. What it then does, it identifies very unique patterns about this author, and it identifies around up to 50 different patterns, and then it thinks how to combine them to create a profile of the author, so that if you give it a completely new text, and Emma does not have any connections to any databases, then it can reliably, with up to 85% reliability, tell whether this was written by a given author or not. And it can do so effectively within the set of 20 authors. To give you a comparison, any algorithm in the world that has that aimed to do a similar task can do so effectively with up to only 5 authors. So this almost 5 times as efficient. And furthermore, it's been only early in development and testing. And effectively, its applications are legion, starting from fighting contract plagiarism, where plagiarism checker does not have access to database, but if it knows the style of the author, it can reliably tell whether this is original
So what you're
writing.
saying is that there is a student who, let's say, writes the first 3-4 assignments on his or her own,
Yes.
but then hires someone to write the last paper. If the system saw the first few papers, it can say that the last one was...
Yes, it will say that the writing style is inconsistent, and it will give even it will give some scales to it for example, from 0 to 10. It's confidence about that this specific paper is written by student or not, and it's proven to give a very low false negatives. So the efficiency of the system is still being improved. It works better on more stylistic text. If we take literature, if we take journalists, so more accomplished writers are actually easier to catch. But effectively, the system can be trained to recognize more casual writing, and that would happen definitely within the next few months or so. So Emma is in the beta. Effectively, it's not a police tool like any other tool. Some perception of plagiarism checkers is that, oh, they are police tools to actually catch cheaters. Well, it used to be like that, well, in the early days, but of existence of plagiarism checkers. But now the whole paradigm in education is shifting towards teaching rather than catching. So if an institution employs a plagiarism checker, it may still have these negative connotations from the past, but in fact, it's only for the purpose, or progressive institutions are using it for the purpose of letting students run the checks even before they submit.
Right, and that is actually very important. That's exactly how we approach it at Xculture. Initially, a few years ago, we would use Turnitin or other plagiarism checkers only at the very end of the project. So when the final reports are submitted, they would be submitted through Turnitin, and then we would get the plagiarism report, primarily to catch the cheaters. And so the professors would see the results, and if too much of the report has been copied and pasted, not properly referenced, the students would be in trouble. But then at some point, we realized our job is not to catch the cheaters and punish them, but to make sure that students do a good job, so to teach them how to write reports without plagiarizing. And so ever since, we would offer them to submit their reports for a kind of pre-check a week or so before the actual final report is due. So if there are problems, students can see those problems, they can understand what's wrong, and then have enough time to fix them before the final report is submitted. So this way, we kind of shift the focus from catching the problem with bad behavior to helping students avoid it and learn how to not make those mistakes.
Yeah, and that's
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So another question was about the types of customers, and I think we could have put it in marketing, but I guess it's important to understand those in the beginning. So basically, you work with different customer groups. If I understood correctly, and the student is asking about that, so you can sell directly to the schools, but it can also be to the whole
That's correct.
school systems, but
Yes.
also to individual students, right? Can you clarify the differences in those
Yeah.
products? Is it the same product, just different customers?
Yeah, it's different. Those are two different products. So we internally within the company, we distinguish a product that is for individual use and a product that is for corporate use. So corporate is any organization. So any organization that employs a learning management system would be a corporate user, even if it's just one faculty using the software. So basically, students who would like to do plagiarism checks before they turn in their submissions, either they are provided a pre-check option by the vendor in the LMS system, and UniCheck has that option in one of our integrations, LTI integration, or if an institution does not provide them this option, they can optionally get it there on their own by subscribing to one of the services, or maybe using a free service. And maybe it's time to make a distinction between the free service and the paid service. So primarily, the difference between the free and the paid individual service is all about security and privacy of your information, because you don't really know where your information is going. That's the first thing. And second is the accuracy of the search. No matter how free tools are popular, some people may think that it assumes if Google ranks some website in top, that means the quality is great. But in fact, it's just the popularity of that website. But it doesn't imply that the quality is great at the same time. So commercial plagiarism checker tend to have, and quite predictably, much better search results, because they do have much better algorithms. They employ programmers who perfect the technology every day, and effectively get better product. And of course, you are not subjected to any web tracking or advertisement, etc. With paid product, you simply get your private space where you can manage your files. They stay there forever. By the way, none of the free checkers practically offers any cabinet functionality where you can have storage and basically access your reports at any time that you need. It's simply like come and use and go away. With paid services, you get basically a service. You can get a cabinet, you get to maintain your storage, you can access your reports, you get to enjoy the advanced features like support of large files larger than 1 page or 2 pages. In our system, you can upload documents as large as 100,000 words, which is tons of pages, and it could be in size more than up to 70 megabyte, and none of the free services offer that. So for higher educational students, obviously the free service is not an option. So
then
yeah.
basically, so for the institutions, it would be a more general product or package where they can use it whichever way they want. Whereas for students, I assume individual students are primarily interested in pre-checking their work for plagiarism and grammar before they submit it for evaluation to the professor.
Yeah,
So
that's correct. And enterprise users, they tend to insert plagiarism check action when they collect assignments. So once assignment is collected from the student, along with that assignment, they want to have a plagiarism report ready when they are grading or when they are providing the feedback. Right. That's the most popular use, but of course it could be used in other areas like discussions, maybe peer review, etc.
Now, very briefly, so one
and,
of the
one moment. Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Ivan, can you
talk?
Yeah. Okay. I want to add that for individuals, actually for students, we have one idea. We in future we want to create environment for students where they can create their works, when they will have plagiarism detection engine, grammar check engine, and other our technologies for helping them for creating good work and making good research, actually. And it's our idea. I think next year we start creating such environment.
It's kind of more on the teaching side rather than catching side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the aim of the UniCheck is to provide a comprehensive suite of tools. Although we have a strict philosophy, we don't interfere with LMS tools. So if LMS implements the grading module, we don't actually impose our grading module to overshadow that one, or annotations or peer review, etc. So UniCheck can be also perceived as a very lightweight tool. even for enterprise version. Effectively, teachers only get the similarity report where they need to see it, and they grade using their own standard grading tools inside the LMS.
Now, another question would fall in the competition analysis category. So you already did talk about who the main competitors are, how they're popular in different countries. We know that your product is of comparable quality and maybe even better in some respects, but maybe much cheaper. But still, if you had to look at the strengths and weaknesses of your company compared to the competition, what would you say are the things that you do better than others, and perhaps maybe what are the things that you wish you did better than others, but at this time you don't, particularly perhaps with respect to functionality?
Yeah. So product-wise, we're a stronger product. Practically, I would say if we take virtually any LMS system, our integration has been built in a cleaner, more reliable and a better way, both from the usability standpoint and both from the stability standpoint. And we don't, once again, we don't provide heavy features on top of our reports, so we don't force teachers to use some features that they don't need or that they have in their LMS systems. So the product itself is easy to use. Virtually no training is required. It has little features that are really needed, and that's it. Apart from that, we offer 99.9% uptime, and we literally don't have any issues with loss of data or on submissions to lost, etc. So that was one of the key issues with some of the plagiarism vendors due to networking issues. So we implement basically new technologies which queue up all the requests. We never lose them, and IT issues are basically minimized in this case. In terms of the search, we offer really outstanding internet search. That's our strong point, and this includes open access materials like journals and articles. Where we fall short as yet is commercial databases, and that is linked to our market strategy. If we were to connect commercial databases, the price of accessing such database would automatically be transferred on the customer, and that would lead to cost increase. And by far, not all institutions require to search against commercial database, because as yet, they would need still to have a statistics to actually know for themselves that students actually even taken any material from those databases, when they can easily look for open materials online, and open access publishing is gaining momentum every year. It's adding 5 to 10% of the whole entire academic body of texts.
And what are those paid systems? Is it something that students can also tap into?
Usually those are paid systems onboarded by institutions. So institutions subscribe to specific journals or specific encyclopedias, and the access is provided either online, remotely, or through the libraries. Effectively, it's a big, vast amount of information, and not all of it is digital. Like, it could be simply an OCR of a newspaper, which is not searchable text. It's like an image, but still, students could really get something from it and include it as their own work. But at the same time, the low-hanging fruit is the information that is right out there in the open, and that's the internet. And that's what we focus on. And we sometimes, if we compare ourselves to competitors, we can find up to 40% more matches than any good competitor in the region, unless it's a very tailored competitor who has been existing in their region for years, like, for example, Orkund in the Scandinavia. They indexed lots and lots of local journals because they know the data that universities are using in there, and they could have better database there. Apart from that, product-wise, the quality of internet search, the quality of integrations, the support, by the way. I think we're the first company to really offer excellent service, being position ourselves as a service company. We effectively offer SLA-based support. What it means is that we guarantee you that within a certain time limit, we're going to respond to you, we're going to solve your problem, and effectively you will be back on track within predictable time frame. Yeah, and it's on top of the fact that our system itself is stable.
That's interesting. Yeah. Now,
can I add?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. From our experience, I want to add that actually for our clients and for our potential clients, it's very important that we have world-class development team and we can add any features that they ask it. And we have created new brand integration with our LMS system Canvas. Also, we have integration with Google Classroom, and we always listen our clients. If they need to add some features or something else, we can add it very quickly. And it's not a very big problem for us to implement some new features.
That's actually quite impressive. I don't think Turnitin would add features just because I need them.
Yeah.
Several students asked about the language. Does it work only in English, or it can work with other languages too?
Yeah. So our system has been designed in a very smart way. It really understands not languages but symbols, and in computer, symbols are stored using character maps. So every symbol has a number associated with it. So to enable a language in UniCheck, all we need to do is add this character map. But at the same time, there has to be, we have to remember that some languages and some languages have quite distinct way of grammar. For example, they are written right to left, like Arabic language, or they don't use spaces at all to distinguish between words because they use hieroglyphs, and hieroglyphs could express a concept, a sentence, etc. So apart from non-standard, non-mainstream languages, UniCheck basically supports most of the, I guess all of the Western languages, and most of the languages that use some characters and basically have space between words and are written left to right. That's the requirement.
So what you're saying is basically most of the languages other than maybe Arabic or Chinese.
Yeah, Arabic or Chinese, or it could be other dialects of that are supported basically.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I thought it was only English. Now about the markets. As I understand, the product is very easy to scale. There is no physical product that needs to be moved across the border, so you can potentially sell it in just about any country. And you already do have customers in multiple countries. So the question is, one, where your customers currently are, what countries you already work with, and two, other countries that you're particularly interested in as far as your business expansion.
Yeah. So I would say half of our efforts land in the United States. That's basically historically the innovative country, the country that implements new practices, and then many other countries follow United States. So basically, a lot of our customers are in the United States. We also work with Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Spain, Portugal, countries of Latin America, and we start also to work with countries in Southeast Asia. So regionally, I would say most important regions for us are North America, Europe, Latin America, and Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
That could include China, but for that we would need to support hieroglyphs, and yeah.
Well, it's important to also recognize that in China, as well as a number of other countries, English is becoming, if not the default language of instruction, then a more popular language of instruction, especially at the at business schools, law schools, at the graduate level especially. More and more courses are offered in English. And so, like, for example, there are quite a few students participating in mixed culture from China, and their courses are offered in English. So I guess that becomes, I'm sure that the Mandarin or Cantonese or...
Yeah, that's true. That's also very true about Middle East. They use, the language of instruction is quite often English, especially in private sector and especially in business and relevant disciplines.
Now, when we talk about promotion and marketing, so there are several students who are asking about who usually are the decision makers. So who are the people who make the decisions about choosing your product? And again, I understand it's two different domains, essentially, students versus institutions. So who would be the right people to approach to even talk about a possibility of them using UniCheck?
Yeah, so we'll always have to keep in mind whether we are talking with individual school or college, or whether it's a network, for example, a district or so. So if it's an individual entity like school, college, university, then there could be a range of people who would be looking for plagiarism software, either proactively, or they could be interested if they receive some information about it. That starts, of course, with technical director, if there is one. If there is no technical director, it could be an instructional technologist, basically a specialist in educational technology, and even down to some extent down to teachers. Sometimes if it's a very small school or college, a teacher could have the role of basically overseeing some aspects of electronic systems, for example, like plagiarism software. But primarily it's IT departments and it's instructional departments.
So it wouldn't be a professor, or it wouldn't be the school principal or dean of the school, but rather it would be the technical IT department.
It would be rather a technical IT department first, and second, it would be instructional department. It's all the people who assist the educational staff, professors and teachers to use the software. They're actually experts in using the software, so they could also be interested in and look for it.
Now, there are 3 students who are asking about your current marketing practices. How do you promote your product now? What is your marketing strategy? One is also asking about the marketing budget. I'm not sure if you're at liberty to reveal those figures, but if you could talk a little bit more about your marketing practices.
Yeah, so in the past years when we had Unplugged brand, most of the marketing effort was effectively inbound marketing. So basically creating articles on the academic plagiarism topics, making outreach with bloggers, with opinion leaders, etc. So it's basically called inbound marketing, when you create some useful content around your topic, and then student, teachers, and all your audience finds this content, and then they read about your solution, and they might go to your website, might not go to your website, but at the same time, it increases brand awareness and could even bring some customers. Right now, we have redesigned our marketing department structure from scratch, I would say. So there will be new marketing strategy, and that is why I cannot give you a budget because it's still in the making. But the primary idea is to involve such not only inbound marketing channel, which is articles, but also social channels like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, email newsletters, which is not like like in the old days when you just spam everybody on your list, but very selected email newsletters, really targeted at potential users, the people who would be really interested to look into this kind of software. Additionally to this, we can explore offline events and exhibitions still in education and in business. Offline expos attract lots of decision makers, even teachers, if we're talking about brand awareness. And having a stand helps you to promote your brand and meet people on the ground, basically establish trust.
Are you using any sales representatives that literally go school to school and talk about the product?
Right now, we only have such sales representative in our own country, in Ukraine, and this has proven to be very effective, in fact. So we have connected, during the last 2 years, we have connected, I guess, over 50 institutions here locally in Ukraine, and these are mostly higher educational institutions. We talk with the Ministry of Education. Having the luxury of talking to a minister or to the ministry is really helpful because it can give you entry to basically the entire country if they really want to onboard it on some country level. At the same time, we do not yet operate the network of physical salespeople elsewhere, and we more rely on the partnerships and partnership network to do that job. So basically, we work with integrators, the companies who install and maintain LMS systems. We work with LMS vendors themselves. They usually have application markets that which are basically extensions to their platform. And having been listed in that list of apps helps to also bring leads, new customers, and interested people.
So one of the big components of the X-Culture Challenge for UniCheck is you basically offer the students to try and talk to potential customers and see if they can get a contract. And if they do, you even offer a 15% aftermarket commission for basically the business lead. And so the big question here is, what would be the tips for the students who would like to try and succeed at that task? Whom should they talk to? What should they say? At which point should they refer the potential clients to you? Do you have two students asking, do you have some sort of booklets or pamphlets that they can print out and bring with them to those meetings? Any other suggestions for how to make it more successful?
Yeah, so here actually it helps to study a very classic sales pipeline for IT products. So first of all, we have to identify the decision maker. That's correct. And as I mentioned, it's usually the IT department, somewhere in the IT departments, but related to education. So it could be instructional specialist, the specialist in educational technology. The second, but at the same time, by the way, although these people, the IT people, are usually the ones who evaluate the software and who actually are the first people to talk about it, the responsible person could be someone, and usually someone from administration. It could be either a chief technology officer, if there is one, or it could be some other administration. So you could actually make connection with top administration first, present the idea, the solution, and they could refer you to a proper department. And then when they refer you, you are already credible contact to that department. So they will listen to you. That's the first thing. And
what should they then say? How should they present your company? Do you have any handouts that they can bring to the meeting?
So effectively, well, first, even without any marketing material, they should first understand if there is a real interest in either changing a plagiarism solution, if there is one, or actually adopting one if there isn't one. And there would be two different, I would say, negotiation strategies, because the institution that didn't use any plagiarism solution, it would be less demanding usually. The institution that has used some plagiarism solution, they would have certain pain points and certain negative experiences that they want to improve. And your job is to understand what those are. So UniCheck team will assist the teams who will take this task and will approach real institutions to identify pain points if it's an institution that is already using a specific plagiarism solution. And the second step would be usually to present the software, to give a video demonstration. And since it has to be done professionally, if the students have to master the product, but rather students would better arrange an online meeting with the institution, with the person representing the institution, jointly with the UniCheck team. And UniCheck representative will conduct a demonstration.
And you offer demonstrations, right? Demos.
Yeah, demos, live demos. And usually the demo is like about the company, about the product, then the demo, then questions and answers. And after that, if they are really interested, they would request, or we would offer them a test account. Test accounts are offered for free, and they are accompanied with all the manuals for them to install the software, to operate the software, etc.
And then a couple of students inquired as to whether or not you would be open to the idea of offering some sort of a permanent employment, perhaps commission-based, for the students if they turn out to be fairly successful at signing up new customers. So essentially, if there is a student in a country XYZ who is willing to go school to school and sign up them as new clients for UniCheck, would you be willing to offer some sort of a permanent employment to this person as your sales representative or company representative? There is even one student who says that he's actually a coder, and I'm not sure if that would be helpful here, but he himself writes code, but also is interested in becoming a company rep if it works.
Yes, so as of now, we don't have any such official program where an individual, particularly a student, could represent the company. I cannot say that we won't have such program in the future. As of now, we do not plan to employ any individual students unless they are professional salespeople. And even in that case, we usually work on the revenue share basis. So it's not a salary-based position. When you close a deal, you get your revenue share according to the contract, but it's not a salary-based position.
Well, it may be something to think about. So we have quite a few thousand people.
Yeah, we would look into performance, and for extraordinary performance, there's certainly a possibility of cooperation. And I wouldn't define the terms of cooperation, because we would really have to look into specific country, region, capabilities of that specific student or group of students.
Right. So we're pretty much out of time, but there is also one block of questions that students keep asking about, and that is the payments.
Yeah.
Are there any problems with moving the money across the border? If there is a student, for example, interested in using plagiarism pre-check before submitting the work, how easy or difficult it is to pay, both in terms of do they have to have a credit card, but then also is it difficult for you to receive the payment?
Yeah.
Do you have to pay some sort of like a foreign transfer fee or something like that?
Yeah. So corporate sectors usually pays using wire transfer. So effectively, they either go to the bank or they have a banking online system on premises where they issue the payment. We equally receive it on bank and can basically cash it from bank. So there is no difficulty in paying for institutions and us receiving the funds. Of course, some tax apply, but we don't need to think about it. It's basically governed by the company with which they're doing business. So we've got European company and got United States company. In terms of individual product, the one which is used by individual students or teachers or any other content users, they can, right now we accept payments using either a PayPal account or a credit card. Although the credit card is not stored in the student account, so when they make a payment, they'll have to enter credit card information for processing. And that is made using the guest payment option of PayPal. So PayPal offers you the option to pay with your card even without the PayPal account.
Right. Makes perfect sense. All right, I think that's pretty much all of the questions that I have here in the email. I'm sure there will be many more as the student starts working on the project. The teams have to choose their client companies by Monday. So I have no idea how many of them will choose UniCheck, but given the connection as far as the academic industry, I'm sure that will be quite a few teams. And once they start working on the challenge next week, there will be probably more questions. And as we've done in the past, instead of bothering you each time there is a question, we will create a database of frequently asked questions. And if it's something old, something somebody already asked, we will just copy and paste the answer from the database. If it's a brand new question, something that hasn't been addressed before, we will forward them to you and ask for the additional information.
And for teams that actually pick on the real deals, we promise to power up your efforts with real professionals here from our team. So you would get additional marketing information, sales advice, and basically even mentoring, coaching during the process, and of course assistance with deal closure.
From my end, I would recommend that the students try that option for several reasons. One, if you succeed, you will be able to put on your resume basically a line that says that you were able to facilitate an international business deal. So there is no better way to convince your future employer of your capability as a business person than by showing that you already facilitated a contract between organizations in different countries. Two, and that is very important, if you would like either get a job at a particular institution, or maybe you will be applying to a graduate program, or maybe you have some other interest in a particular institution, normally it is very difficult for you to approach the top management of that company or university, for example, as a regular student. So you don't have a reason, and it would be difficult to schedule an appointment and talk to the person. Here you have a legitimate reason to initiate that meeting because you would like to talk to them about something that they potentially would be interested in. And that may give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, to make your name put it in their memory. So when the time comes to either apply for a job or apply for a graduate program or a stipend or whatever it might be, they will remember you, and that will give you essentially an advantage. And then it's a good experience. I mean, chances are after you graduate, you will have to do deals like this. And so there is no better way to prepare yourself than to actually try and see how it goes. Maybe you will be more comfortable with this than you thought, or maybe you will be less comfortable than you thought, or maybe you will learn some new tricks. So this is your kind of low risk opportunity to try. And even if you fail, you don't lose anything, but you may succeed, and in that case, you gain a lot. Plus, on top of that, if you succeed, you will get some aftermarket commission, maybe just enough to make you happy. So.
Yeah, and facilitation is the proper word here. You won't be dealing with the customer on your own once you get a really interested party. And second, the great takeaway is experience, of course, and that's first and foremost. Even if you fail, but you go through all business-to-business deal cycle. First of all, you learn about the steps, you learn about this niche a little bit, you learn some negotiation skills, maybe presentation skills, etc. And that is, of course, a tangible value.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is that while it is obviously in a great interest of the company itself, for you as a student, it's also of great value to you. And so don't take this or don't approach this option as a way to help the company. It's a way to help yourself while also benefiting the client company. Anyway, so we are out of time. It's been more than an hour. So thank you so much for your time. I know it's a late hour in Kiev, and I'm sure you have better things to do on this, Wednesday night. But thank you so much for spending the time with us. As discussed before, let's try to have another webinar maybe sometime in October, and then another one in November. And I think you already sent us the dates. So the next two webinars, we will try to focus less on the presentation of the company and turn the table and give the students an opportunity to present to you what they will have at that time, so that you can provide feedback, and then the remaining time the students can spend using your feedback to adjust their answers to make sure that they are good ones of interest to the company, and give them a better chance to basically win this competition.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you so much, and truly appreciate your time. We will be in touch, I guess, by email and then later on in another live webinar.
Thank you everyone for listening, and good luck.